Hi, my name is Liz Hathaway, and this is what caught my eye astrologically in this coming week. And this is the week starting April the 6th, 2020. Well, the first thing that caught my eye this week was Mercury. Mercury's often a busy little planet, linking up between all of the other sort of planets. He's not called the messenger of the gods, is he, for nothing? Well, this week he's busy. What he does this week is on Tuesday he sextiles first Pluto, and we could see this maybe because Pluto rules what's under the surface, what's sort of not yet reached consciousness. So this is some kind of possibly profound or a deep insight or some research that is just coming through, if we think of it in terms of corona, news of a vaccine, news of a breakthrough, something seeping through there from Pluto, from the outermost reaches, if you like, of consciousness. When we get to Wednesday, Mercury's still in Pisces. Pisces is a sort of mute sign, so it's still kind of keep it quiet, it's not being sort of shared or, spread around yet. Mercury as a Pisces sign of its detriment, Mercury here, so it's keeping quiet about it. Nothing's really, nothing's breaking through yet. So then we see on Wednesday, we see Mercury sextiling Jupiter. Jupiter now moving ahead of Pluto. So that's interesting as well, the conjunction being yesterday. So Mercury then sextiles Jupiter. Jupiter, I guess, is a bit further up the food chain, higher in the pecking order if its ideas moving up. It's getting, to the first, how important is this? How good is this research? How interesting is this news? And then we see Mercury change its sign. And then Mercury moves on Saturday out of Pisces, where it's sort of in detriment, into Aries, where it can, be a bit of a big mouth. It can speak its mind. It's speak first quite often, think about the consequences later. It's enthusiastic. It wants to get the message out there. So take that. That's Mercury in Aries. It doesn't mince with words. It's fight and talk also. It puts it out there with a kind of, and sometimes then it has to retract. Then this is what we see then after that. Mercury goes into Aries, and then it sextiles, but it sextiles Saturn. So this is where Saturn is always, the sort of voice of authority. He's even further up the pecking order in a way in terms of society. So something coming out there, something that is kind of new, something that's exciting, something that might mean at some point something will have to be retracted in it. But Saturn certainly with the sextile is taking it and moving with it and doing something with it. So Mercury is a player this week. Mercury connecting up Tuesday with Pluto, Wednesday with Jupiter, and then on Sunday with Saturn. So this is also the week where we have the build up to the full moon. So we have the full moon in Libra and the sun in Aries. It's interesting. I mean, Aries to me always is the sign that's walking out front, it's sort of bold, it's brassy, it's kind of confident. It has all of the sort of joy and enthusiasm of a child going into it, let's have a go at it. But it can lose sight of the other. It can become so caught up in the enthusiasm, its own enthusiasm, that it can often be very me first, or my ideas. It hasn't always got the eye for the bigger picture, and that's what's interesting about the full moon in Libra. There's a sense there of growing awareness of the need to cooperate, the need to work with other people, the need to be part of a team, if you like, as opposed to a trailblazer or a lone wolf. So the challenge here with that full moon, around that full moon, is to share information. It's to work together. It's to see the other side, to see the other point of view, and to sort of that sort of balance between harmony, cooperation, but without losing sight of the assertivity, which is so essential to the sun in Aries. It has to assert it. It's intrinsic to its very nature. So that's interesting this week as well. The full moon is always as well a sort of peak moment, if you like. It's a moment of reflection, especially with Libra. There's that balance. It's poised. It's ever so fragile. It can tip at any moment, but there is a moment of equipoise, of balance, of harmony, of, you know, being able to see a bigger picture, to weigh possibilities up, but also, you know, looking a bit further what Mercury's doing as well. There is that ability to change tack, change the message. You know, Pisces, you know, keeping things quiet. Aries, get it out there, big it up. You know, there's something happening in the area of communication here. Something that was silent starts to speak when we get into the weekend. So maybe that's tying into that full moon where there's a moment of clarity, insight, working together, etc. But what also, of course, is an event this week is Mars square Uranus. That's on Tuesday. It's a kind of a dry run in many ways for Saturn square Uranus, which will be the major astrological event really in 2021. So Mars is sort of giving us a little taster, if you like. What we see with Mars square Uranus, particularly in terms of ourselves, personal life, we should be mindful not to try and do too many things at once, you know, because this is a classical cut your finger, you know, because you've got things on the stove, you've got this going on, you're trying to have a conversation on the telephone at the same time that, you know, your phone drops into the bowl of water, whatever. You know, it's a kind of a warning against multitasking on a grand scale. You know, if you're driving, you don't want to, you know, make that sort of fast move there, because it kind of, Uranus charges Mars up a little bit. It kind of, it kind of pushes Mars, you know, even to be bolder than he already tends to be. Of course, Mars square Uranus as well. It's related to technology. It's related to breakdowns. It's related to accidents. It has that link to accidents. Always Mars square Uranus. It also has a rebellious streak. I mean, people, you know, with Mars square Uranus, if you let them, you know, go on the telly to promote their cause, it's going to be, you know, shock, horror, because they're really going to say things that get people to, whoa, what are you saying now? You know, it's kind of got that edge to it, a boldness, a brashness, but also a kind of stoke it up sort of energy. On the other hand, of course, Mars square Uranus as well, it does have that creativity to it. Uranus is in Taurus at the moment, and Mars is, of course, a malefic. So there could be some, you know, again, you know, what we're seeing at the moment with, you know, the kind of the whole Pluto Capricorn Saturn, you know, the whole Jupiter as well, which is bigging it up. You know, this could be an economic sort of setback of some kinds, of some cuts. You know, we're going to hear losses of this and cuts in that, and, you know, because Mars is always quite cutting. It has that cutting edge to it. But yeah, it's a really, really interesting week. And I think as well, what adds, by the way, what also caught my eye here this week is that moon in Scorpio. Because when the moon is in Scorpio as well, it's going to make that Saturn-Mars conjunction, which is, you know, sort of in Aquarius, into a T-square. So, you know, the moon, the lack of personal freedom, the moon in Scorpio, there's a sense of as well in the collective, some kind of collective frustration and collective irritation as well with the current situation. And that T-square there coming into effect really when the moon is in Scorpio. So we'll see that on Thursday. So yeah, this is what caught my eye this week. Thank you for looking. Have a good week and stay safe.